Okay, if board members would please return to the table. Reminding people we will still have a closed session at the end of this meeting, so it's important that we stay to our timeline. You bet. If you want to go home tonight. Okay? Board members, please return to the table. Ms. McLaughlin, thank you. Okay, thank you. Our next work session is the proposed FY 2017 audit plan. And just to remind people, the purpose of this is to be able to bring the audit plan for a vote at our next school board meeting. And the actual audit plan, the plan itself, which begins on page 5, is a unanimous recommendation from the AG and the audit committee. The topics that are proposed to come forward is what we are recommending that the school board approve as the major substance of the audit plan for the FY 2017. So, Ms. Trump, if you would like to begin a presentation, and I would ask my colleagues if you could hold your questions until the end of the presentation, unless it's absolutely necessary, so that we can stay on schedule. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Trump.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. I want to thank everyone again for the opportunity to be here. Very excited to present the 2017 audit plan for Fairfax County Public Schools. In my first year crafting a full year audit plan for Fairfax County Public Schools, I wanted to provide for a plan for this year that enhances the Office of Auditor General's consistently sound audit efforts with expanded audit planning discipline and capabilities within the office in alignment with the vision and goals for the office. This was done by using a risk-based audit approach that weighed input from school board members, all of you here, leadership team. This year's audit plan includes audits with robust efficiency, effectiveness, compliance, and financial objectives, and an increased emphasis on cost savings. Our work in 2017 will be enhanced by a renewed focus on collaboration with all levels of division management and also with Fairfax County. We will seek to understand the division's unique operational challenges and strategic actions, and through renewed efforts in our audit follow-up program, we'll provide management and the school board with updates on the status of audit recommendations and related trend analysis. Most significantly, we are implementing a formal data analytics focus to strengthen our audit analysis and recommendations. I look forward to carrying out these efforts and future audit engagements as a primary vehicle for increasing efficiency and transparency in FCPS. In order to craft this risk-based audit plan, I undertook the effort of gathering information from multiple sources throughout FCPS, which are highlighted on pages 3 and 4. I'm not going to go through these, but let me just take a quick minute to explain that risks include opportunities, the upside of risks, and inherent in risks are factors such as cost savings, reputation, business processes, compliance, and finance. I engaged members of the school board and the entire leadership team in conversations and, as you'll recall, a risk survey for the audit plan. We had a 77% response rate to the survey. The results of the survey are available on the school board website in board docs for the May 2016 audit committee meeting. That's when I presented the results of the survey and the other audit planning activities I undertook. And so speaking of other audit planning activities, they included risk profiling, in which we considered financial data, prior audits, prior division monitoring reports, current or projected future division management or school board reviews, legal requirements for compliance, and operational activities such as turnover or program design. And finally, since March, the audit committee was engaged in these discussions and voted on these final recommendations, which I brought to the committee in June, and now I bring to the full school board for final approval in this FY 2017 audit plan. So the audit plan is in front of you, And it's different this year, and I'll tell you why it's different. It includes, first of all, an overview, a robust overview to explain the risk-based auditing approach, which also has links to our website. It also includes a project plan that shows the timeline of the audits, an annual audit planning timeline, and an audit horizon. These are all new features to the audit plan. I'll explain each of these very briefly. The project plan on page 6, or I'm sorry, on page 9, was developed with audit priorities as the key drivers. However, with consideration of division management's availability, given their other priorities. An example is healthcare open enrollment, which was considered for the timing of the health claims audit. And also the first month back to school, which was considered for the timing of the cybersecurity audit. We did not want to inundate the division or the school board with front loading or back loading or even middle loading. I also draw your attention to the audit horizon on page 10, which is new to the division. Having an audit or horizon identifies at this point in time potential future audits. It does not commit us. These future audits were identified using the same activities used to develop the actual FY 2017 audit plan that is in front of you. And if, page 10, yeah? Cool. And if any of these audit areas are to be included in any future audit plan, whether it's a mid-year revision, which this board has seen in the past 2 years, or if it's for the FY 2018 audit plan, they will be identified using the same process of audit committee vetting, approval, and of course, final approval by the board next July, or again, if it's mid-year, anytime during this fiscal year. And that is done in accordance with the current regulation 1420, which is the internal audit charter. But I do think it's valuable that we have an audit horizon so that the school board and the community are aware that we are aware of other areas that have been of interest to stakeholders and that we are able to recalibrate our priorities for audits as needed. Finally, the audit planning timeline on page 11 is also new to this division. It's akin, if you will, to the budget planning timeline that you are accustomed to seeing. This audit planning timeline, I guess page 11, I'll wait till we get there. We're all bats. This audit planning timeline provides transparent expectations for the division and the school board because it takes full cooperation throughout FCPS to craft a robust annual audit plan. And as you can see from this audit planning timeline, there are touch points for division, audit committee, and leadership team. Division, audit committee, and the school board throughout the year, or at least 11 months of the year. So it is a full year's, for all intents and purposes, 11 out of 12 months, full year's audit planning timeline. So the audit plan in front of you, as we'll jump into pages 5, 6, and 7, and 8, the audit plan in front of you includes 10 audit engagements. That is more than in the years past. But it also leaves capacity for the Office of Auditor General to engage in ad hoc audits, reviews, investigations, and other non-audit services for FY 2017. I just want to point out that in the fall, the school board will be asked to approve a new document, the FY 2017 work plan for the Office of Auditor General, that will highlight the other goals and priorities for the Office of Auditor General. But our main priorities are these audits. You will find in this year's audit plan these 10 audit engagements, broken down as 7 areas that have never been audited in FCPS before, and 3 areas that are on an annual recurring cycle. You'll be familiar with those. One of the audits, for example, forms a financial opinion as required by government auditing standards. 2 of the audits are strictly compliance audits, and the remaining 7 audits have blended elements of efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance. All of the audits will be performed by single auditors in the office. So at this point, I'd like to stop here and ask if members have any questions about any of the audit engagements in the plan, again, which start on page 5, or about anything else that I've brought to your attention today.
Okay, I assume everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at the proposed audits. This is what we will be approving at the next school board meeting. It is these particular audit engagements. Ms. Evans, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Trump. I basically just wanted to say that I'm very pleased with this audit plan. I think that Ms. Trump and the audit committee have done an excellent job. It's a very robust plan, and I'm very pleased to see it. This is something of a first for us. So kudos to everybody who was involved in that. And I also just want to thank you for sitting down with me and going through it, a piece at a time. So I was able to focus on, and we had a good conversation. So thank you for all your work on it.
Ms. Huff?
Thank you.
Thank you. I also am very excited about this audit plan and have been glad to sort of sit in on the committee meetings and see this work happen, as it's my first time around, and having a better understanding of what this is going to look like. I did have a question on page 9 of the presentation about the audit schedule project plan. Just as a new board member, I was hoping to get a little more understanding on what expectations throughout this project plan are for the board members, for management, for the audit team. What do those sort of look like within this annual plan?
Thank you, Ms. Huff. That's a great question. I did consider the resources within my office and also within the division, and also the meeting management as it relates to bringing these to the audit committee and the board. So to answer your question specifically, when we conduct field work in the office, we do reach out to the various stakeholders or business owners. So it's important for everyone that's looking at this project plan, when they see the word field work, especially those business owners, for example, IT, cybersecurity. I'm looking at Ms. Glass. I'm going to use her as an example. That she's aware that we are going to be working closely with her key point of contact that she's assigned for this audit. We ask for data, we ask for documents, we do go through our audit procedures. So that's part of the field work. We do interviews. We also do our own internal research and benchmarking and run our data analysis. So that's, again, really important for the division management to see that those dates. The reporting phase includes not just when we are writing the report, but there is an iterative process, again, with the business owners. So it's really important. We do have timelines that are prescribed in the internal audit charter by which management has to respond, and then we turn those around to the audit committee. So these dates for reporting include iterative process, because by the time we bring the report to the committee, we want to make sure that the information is relevant, our findings and our observations are on point, there are no fatal flaws. And again, our recommendations are in line with what we know that division can do or can consider doing. And then finally, reporting, Chairman Evans and I have, she mentioned we met, and what you will expect as the full board is a report at work sessions on at least the 7 performance audits I mentioned, and possibly local school activity funds. We've not audited. We did not present that last year to the full board, but we certainly can. But at least the other 7 audits, starting from IT, cybersecurity down, will be able to get in front of the school board and at the same thing that we're doing here, and discuss the audit findings after the audit committee has a chance to see that report. So there's a lot of work that goes into the planning, the field work, and the reporting. So that's with performance audits. That's why it's so long. But I really like having a project plan so we can manage the expectations of everybody who's involved as part of the audit. Does that answer your question? Thanks.
Any other questions on the specific audit proposals so that we can approve this at our next meeting? Yes, Ms. Schultz?
So could you just slide up this one, slide a little bit more? Thank you. So I just wanted to ask a question, because when I spent some time with the Board of Supervisors, Auditor General, this process was described to me, and the fact that there is a visual representation here is profoundly helpful. I think not only for us, for you, for your client, is that what it's called?
Exactly. Good.
Client, but also for the public. And the key part that I'm interested in is on the green part, where it says gather research in that green part. So what was described from the other half of the county was that they wouldn't get any written documents, if you will, that they were not expecting, and this goes to the scoping of the task to the client, which is other employees. They're not producing a report for you to analyze. You're going, and you're talking about when you say gather research, and it a little bit creeps into identify data sources. You're talking about actually taking like raw data, are you not?
We're taking existing data before we go reach out to the client and say, now give us your data. In most cases.
Right.
However, since we work so collaboratively with the division, we during the advanced scoping phases, because it's sometimes hard to narrow down the scope until we do this advanced scoping, so we do reach out to division management. And if they do have reports that are informative to them, we like to see those. So we are, for the most part, not touching the division management or the client formally, but yes, you're right. We are gathering data.
But it's not a matter of getting somebody else to produce a report for you to analyze. It's going and looking at the data itself.
Correct.
And that's the key. I think that is, it's hard for there to be perceived what the takeaway is going to be publicly, but I think that's going to be one of the most significant things that comes out of this is not only that it's represented well here, but there's an understanding that we're not going to go around and task, whoever,
20 people,
people, bus drivers or whoever, to produce a report on something. If you're going to be looking at something, you're going to go and talk to people and,
we'll narrow it down.
Yeah. And then you're going to pull back the data. And that's, if we're going to, I think put a feather in the cap of kind of like the first year of this, that's a big takeaway for me. So I'm very pleased to see that.
Oh, thank you. Good. Yeah, it's a very critical part of the work we do because we can't determine the final scope and objectives unless we do this advanced scoping.
Well, what is, again, it's the vernacular that people, we're right outside of Washington, so a lot of people know what this is, but this keeps it arm's length. This is like, okay, well, I'm gonna look at the stuff, but you don't have to tell me what the stuff means.
Correct.
I'll figure out what the stuff means.
Exactly.
I'm going to, and that way you avoid organizational conflicts of interest and all kinds of things.
Now, are you sure you weren't an auditor before?
Stop.
Yes, we follow Yellow Book standards. Ms. McLaughlin?
Just as someone who served on the audit committee this year, I first want to say, Ms. Trump, I've really enjoyed the work that's been done, especially with developing the audit plan. I am pleased with what I believe are going to be high impact, meaningful audit work. And so it's very exciting to see what you've been able to help with the AG office bring to the board, and really look forward to the board's support for it in the vote. And just also to share with my colleagues that I think we've really benefited from having our two citizen appointees who also bring their subject matter expertise to the dialogue. And so I believe that this draft plan is an example of not only Ms. Trump's leadership, but also the fact that having the two citizen appointees and also the additional staff that have joined Ms. Trump, really what a great team effort on the part of your office. And just wanted to say, since this is sort of our first efforts on really moving the work of the AG function and how it will strengthen not just the board oversight, but it's also going to really help strengthen the division as a whole. We've had the board of supervisors really clamoring for the school system. And so I think that this is something that will be beneficial for FCPS as a whole.
Okay, just a couple of quick questions, Ms. Trump, just to highlight. Some of the audits will also enjoy the assistance of a co-source. And again, that will be with.
Yes, so if you turn to page 5, if we could do that real quick, and we'll just go very quickly through each of these. I'm not going to regurgitate anything. Asset management was brought to the board earlier this year as a phase 2. What we're doing with that one is looking at transportation, student transportation, so the yellow vehicles. I have reached out to the Board of Supervisors auditor as well as the executive auditor to work with them. We had some concerns that this would be a challenge with the Board of Supervisors because this is work, the maintenance work is work that the county does. However, they have embraced this audit and they've really been very, very forthcoming and willing to provide us with data that they have. We've already kicked off this audit. We've already had the formal kickoff with division management. So we've already started engaging the key players. So that we're doing internally, but again, working with Fairfax County on this, which is really exciting. Online campus, this again, which you have seen in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, we brought this up in about March or April. We're finishing this up. This will be one of the first audit reports you'll see, but we're looking at program design. We're looking at efficiency benchmarks. Worked closely again with instructional services on this objective or on these objectives. We have multiple objectives. And IT audit, security, IT audit, cybersecurity. This one is a co-source audit. I will tell you that we're still working out the details of who will co-source with us. As one of the program objectives requires very specific technical expertise. So this is where we'd bring in an auditor in cybersecurity penetration testing, working very closely. Again, we've already kicked this off to ensure that the systems are secure, and before we do any penetration testing, working with Ms. Loveglass and her organization. So that's the co-source, and that budget was approved in the revised audit plan that you saw in April that the board approved. The next page, school activity funds audits and procurement card audits. Those are ongoing. You'll see that report hopefully in November. These are by law, we're required to do the verification of cash at the local schools. So we do audit all 200 schools. We have a full cadre of interns here this summer working with us to ensure that we hit all 200 schools. Business process turnover audits, the next one down, those are ad hoc. They're on a rolling basis depending on finance tech or principal turnover. We do these as compliance audits to help the division, especially financial services, but also the schools to identify any transactional exceptions or findings that they can then fix. And we do collaborate. Financial services does go out and provide training when there's some systematic or anything arises that seems to be systematic. Substitute use, there's been a lot of discussion today about substitute use and cost, and this, we're in the advanced scoping piece, so we are gathering, we're doing our research, we're gathering intel, we're looking at the systems. I'm listening to your questions. I come to these work sessions and these board meetings and I hear your questions and your concerns, and I bring that all back into our audit scoping to determine what may be relevant and useful. We could audit everything, but we can't. I mean, we really cannot hit everything. So we are trying to be mindful of what's the most relevant. Some of the audit objectives that we've narrowed down, we have brought to the audit committee for final discussion rubric in a rubric form. So this may be one that we do that. Again, having heard some of your questions today and interest around substitute use and cost. And so again, this has not been finalized, so I am listening. And the next one, carryover fund and ending balance. This has never been audited before, so we will be looking at that. The financial statement auditors do not do an audit. They follow GASB, and they do not do an audit on these particular carryover funds or the transactions below the ending balance. So this will be a first-time audit around this. Third-party administrators, and I'm sorry, I'm on page 7, Kathy, if you're following me. Third-party administrators, health claims paid, a real good opportunity here to look at the claims paid out for our self-insured funds. What we have found within the state and nationally is that there is a high incident of error, even though we have third-party administrators who have terms and conditions and certain level agreements, certain levels of service with they have to perform and not make any errors. Well, it doesn't always happen that way. So this will be an interesting audit with the amount that we paid in self-insured funds last year for recovery of any claims paid in error. So that one's kicking off, but we're going through a public procurement for that to get in a vendor because of the high possible market value to a vendor for this. Telecommunications audit, again, this is another one where we're looking at the opportunity for efficiencies around streamlining data, long distance, local. Page 8 is the kickoff of the next year's local school activity funds, and that ends the audit engagements that, and I think it answers your question as well. We have one that we're co-sourcing.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And just remind my colleagues that at the pleasure of the school board or the audit committee, adjustments or changes can be made to the audit plan through the year. But so if any of my colleagues have other ideas that they think are important or we run into some unusual need, those suggestions from school board members can come to the audit committee for discussion and then come back to the full board. But it is the full board that does determine the audit plan and then therefore how our expanded staff will spend their time. So if I don't see any other questions, then I think we have made up time. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Trump. So you will
Sure.
see this on the agenda, and if there are no questions, perhaps we can put this on consent. I don't know. It's up to everybody else. Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Ms. Trump.
So I think
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
We need another 3-minute break, and then we can come back. Thank you.